At the mall, my sister slapped me during her wedding shopping and told me to leave. She didn't know she was using my credit card. I canceled it right then. What happened next was pure karma. My name's Lauren, I'm 28. And I've got an older sister named Brooke, who's 31. We've always had what I'd call a messy relationship. Growing up, she was the family favorite, the one who could do absolutely no wrong, while I was the quiet, dependable one making sure everything got done, even when she ended up with all the credit. When Brooke got engaged to her boyfriend Tyler last year, everything in our world started revolving around her wedding. Every dinner, every group chat, every single conversation somehow found its way back to that big day of hers. I tried my best to be supportive because that's what good sisters do, right? I helped her build Pinterest boards, toured venues with her, even took vacation days just to go along for cake tastings. But the problem was that Brooke expected everyone to drop their lives to accommodate her endless wedding plans. She had this entitled streak that made me want to pull my hair out sometimes. She worked part-time as a social media influencer with a small following, while I was grinding through a demanding job as a financial consultant at a major firm. Still, I always carved out time for her because that's what family's supposed to mean. About 6 months before everything blew up, she came to me asking for a favor. She wanted to borrow my credit card for wedding costs. She'd maxed out both her own and Tyler's cards on deposits and decorations. She swore it would just be for a month or two until her sponsorship payments cleared, promising she'd pay me right back. Every instinct I had told me this was a bad idea. I could practically hear the alarm bells in my head. But then came the emotional speech, the sisterhood talk, the maid of honor guilt trip, the tears about stress and wanting her big day to be perfect. Like a fool, I gave in. I didn't hand over my main card, thankfully, but I did give her the details to my business expense card. The number, expiration date, and security code. I figured I could keep an eye on it, monitor every charge, and rein things in if needed. She swore she'd only use it for essential wedding stuff and would clear every purchase with me first. That promise evaporated in less than a week. Suddenly, charges started popping up on my statement, $700 to some planner I'd never heard of, designer bridesmaid dresses that cost more than my car payment, shoes, jewelry, even a weekend in Napa Valley under the label bachelorette planning. Every time I called her out, she had some slick excuse. Oh Lauren, it's fine, that's just for memories, or I had to grab that deal before it expired. Then came the guilt trip. You're not really going to nickel and dime your own sister's happiness, are you? That one hit harder than I'd like to admit. Our mom didn't help either. When I brought it up to her, she'd just sigh and say, Lauren honey, weddings only come once. Can't you just let your sister enjoy this? So I bit my tongue and kept paying the bills as the balance climbed. $15,000 turned into 20, then 30. I told myself she'd sort it out soon and pay me back like she said she would. Then came the day that flipped everything upside down. One Friday morning, Brooke texted me, not asking but demanding, that I meet her at Westfield Mall. She said she needed to shop for wedding accessories and wanted me there immediately. I told her I had client meetings all afternoon, but she insisted it couldn't wait because the boutiques were running some kind of sale. Against all reason, I reshuffled my schedule, postponed 2 big meetings, and drove 45 minutes to get there. She was already waiting with her 3 bridesmaids, Amber, Kelsey, and Tori. All old college friends who shared her entitled energy. I barely got a hello before Brooke shoved a shopping list into my hands, detailing 15 different stores and everything from veils to backup dresses to honeymoon lingerie. I glanced at the list, already feeling my blood pressure rise. Brooke, this is going to take hours, I said. I really have to be back by 4 for a conference call. She rolled her eyes dramatically. God, Lauren, do you ever think about anyone besides yourself and that precious job? This is my wedding, the biggest day of my life. Amber piped up with a sarcastic yeah, some things matter more than work. I swallowed my irritation and agreed to stick around for a couple of hours. The first boutique we hit was Bella's Bridal Accessories, a high-end place where Brooke immediately started grabbing items without even glancing at the price tags. A $1,200 crystal tiara, $800 earrings, a $250 garter. She'd hold things up and ask what I thought, but it didn't really matter what I said. If I complimented something, she'd find a flaw. If I suggested something cheaper, she'd accuse me of trying to ruin her dream day. By the third store, I was mentally and physically done. My feet ached, I was starving, and stress about work kept gnawing at me. She'd already piled up bags of purchases, and I hadn't seen her pay once. She'd just tell the cashier to put it on the card. And stupidly, I assumed she meant hers or Tyler's. It didn't even cross my mind she was using mine without permission. Around 2:30, we ended up in some upscale lingerie boutique. Brooke was in the fitting room trying on silky robes and lacy sets for her honeymoon while the bridesmaids chatted about college gossip, barely acknowledging me. My phone buzzed, an email from my boss. The conference call had been moved up to 3, and I had to be there. Panic kicked in. This was one of my biggest clients and I was supposed to lead the presentation. I knocked on Brooke's dressing room door. "Hey, I'm really sorry, but I have to go. There's a work emergency." She cracked the door open, looking irritated. "Are you kidding me?" "I'm sorry," I said, "but this is important. I'll make it up to you. We can shop again next weekend." She stepped out of the dressing room, fury written all over her face, wearing a white silk robe that probably cost more than my rent, and I could feel the storm about to hit. "You know what your problem is, Lauren?" Brooke snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You only ever think about yourself. I asked for one simple afternoon, just a few hours to help me with the biggest day of my life, and you can't even give me that." "That's not fair," I shot back, trying to stay calm. "I've been here nearly 4 hours. I've helped you shop, given my opinions, tried to be supportive. But I have work obligations I can't ignore." "Obligations?" she scoffed, folding her arms. "Right, because your precious job matters more than family." Amber jumped in. "Honestly, Lauren, it's kinda selfish." I could feel my temper rising, heat crawling up my neck. "Excuse me? I've done nothing but bend over backwards for this wedding. I've spent my time, my energy, and a whole lot of my money helping out. Don't you dare call me selfish." Brooke's face turned a deep shade of red. "Your money? Oh please. You act like you're doing me this enormous favor by letting me use your card like you're some kind of saint." "You asked to borrow it," I reminded her, my voice steady but tight. "You said you'd pay me back. And I will. God, you're so uptight about everything. This is exactly why you don't have a boyfriend. No guy wants to deal with someone this controlling about money." That jab hit hard, but I tried to keep my composure. "Brooke, I really have to go. We can finish this later." "No," she snapped, stepping closer. "We're finishing this right now. I'm sick of your holier-than-thou attitude, acting like you're better than everyone just because you have some big fancy job. You think you can just walk out on me during my wedding shopping trip? You're not alone," I pointed out, glancing toward her bridesmaids. "You've got Amber, Kelsey, and Tori. I'm sure they can help." Kelsey frowned. "We've got plans at 4. We can't stay all day." "Then maybe Brooke should have planned this better," I muttered, regretting the words even as they left my mouth. Brooke's eyes went wide with fury. "How dare you? How dare you criticize me when I'm literally drowning in stress?" "Planning a wedding isn't the hardest thing in the world," I said, my own patience gone. "People do it all the time without maxing out their sister's credit card or throwing fits in public." The boutique went completely silent. Other shoppers were staring. The sales associate looked ready to vanish behind the counter, and I could feel the tension thickening the air. "I cannot believe you just said that," Brooke hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "After everything I've done for you. What exactly have you done for me?" I asked, my disbelief plain. "Name one thing." "I made you my maid of honor," she snapped. "Made me?" I laughed bitterly. "You begged me to do it, and then complained about every single thing I tried to help with." Brooke took a step closer, her face inches from mine. "You are the most ungrateful, selfish person I've ever met. Mom and Dad were right, you've always been jealous of me." "Jealous?" I barked out, a humorless laugh. "Of what? Your complete inability to handle money? Your spoiled attitude? Your total disregard for anyone else's time?" And then it happened. Brooke raised her hand and slapped me hard. The crack echoed across the boutique. My face stung instantly and tears welled up, not from pain but from sheer shock. Every single person in the store froze. A couple of people even pulled out their phones. "Get out," Brooke said in a low, venomous voice. "Get out of here right now. You're not my sister anymore. You're out of my wedding. I don't ever want to see you again." Amber, Kelsey, and Tori stood behind her like some self-righteous chorus, not one of them saying a word in my defense. My cheek burned where her hand had landed. Part of me wanted to scream back, to hit her, to cause a scene. But I couldn't. That's not who I am. So I picked up my purse, lifted my chin, and walked straight out of that store with what little dignity I had left. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My face burned with humiliation, and I could feel people staring as I passed. I'd just been slapped by my own sister in public. I made it to the parking garage, got into my car and just sat there, shaking. Tears poured down my face while I tried to steady my breathing. When I finally looked in the rearview mirror, I saw the red imprint of her hand still on my cheek. And that's when it hit me. She'd been saying put it on the card all day, my card. The one I'd stupidly given her months ago. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Sure enough, there they were, brand new charges. Hundreds at Bella's Bridal Accessories. More at the second boutique. Pending payments at the lingerie store where she'd hit me. My hands stopped trembling, and a cold, deliberate anger settled over me. Brooke had slapped me, humiliated me in public, thrown me out of her wedding, and she was still using my credit card to fund her little fantasy. I called my credit card company right then and there. Hi, I need to report my card as lost or stolen, and cancel it immediately. The woman on the line was kind and professional. She asked if there were any fraudulent charges, and I told her yes, plenty. She canceled the card on the spot, promised a replacement within a week, and said any pending charges would be declined. We'll also reverse the fraudulent transactions, she explained. Can you tell me which ones you didn't authorize? I scrolled through the list, jaw tight. All of them from today, I said flatly. And honestly, most of them from the past 6 months. My sister took my card without permission and used it for her wedding. The woman paused for a second, then said gently, I'm so sorry to hear that, ma'am. We'll start the investigation immediately and reverse those charges. You may need to file a police report for the fraud claim, the credit card rep had said. I understand, I replied, already thinking through my next move. When I hung up, this strange calm washed over me. I just torpedoed Brooke's little shopping spree, and honestly, she'd earned every bit of it. I couldn't help picturing her standing at the register of that fancy lingerie store, her face turning red when the card got declined. The same humiliation she'd thrown at me, only this time she'd feel it herself. But I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. I drove back to the office, joined my conference call, and nailed the presentation like nothing had happened, even though my emotions were all over the place. When I got home that evening, I started documenting everything. Every single charge she'd made on my card, every text where she promised to pay me back, every email, every message. The total came to just over $43,000. I even took pictures of my face. It was still red and a little swollen where she'd slapped me. I wrote down every detail while it was fresh, wanting the record to be airtight. Then my phone started lighting up. Brooke furious in rapid-fire texts. Lauren, what the hell did you do? The card just declined. They embarrassed me in front of everyone. Lauren, you did this on purpose, you vindictive witch. Lauren, I was in the middle of paying and it got declined. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? Call me right now. I didn't respond. Let her stew. Then came messages from Mom. Lauren, honey, Brooke called me crying. What happened? She said you abandoned her and canceled the card she was using. That was incredibly irresponsible. Call me so we can discuss this like adults. I finally replied. Brooke slapped me in public, kicked me out of her wedding, and has been using my credit card without permission for months. She's charged over $40,000. I've reported it as fraud. I can send you pictures of my face if you need proof. There was a long pause before she texted back. You're exaggerating. Brooke would never hit you. And she told me you gave her permission to use the card. Of course she didn't believe me. She never did whenever it came to Brooke's bad behavior. Over the next few days, the family turned into a circus. Everyone had heard Brooke's version of events. The one where I was the jealous, heartless sister who ruined her wedding out of spite. According to her, I'd volunteered to help pay for things and then cruelly backed out at the last second. Nobody bothered asking for my side. My Aunt Carol called to lecture me for 20 minutes about family loyalty. Uncle Dan texted a long paragraph about how disappointed he was. Even my grandma, who I'd always been close with, left me a voicemail saying she hoped I'd make peace with your sister before the wedding. The only person who seemed to doubt Brooke's story was my cousin Rachel. She sent a simple text. Asterisk, I know there are two sides to everything. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Asterisk, I appreciated that more than I could say, but I wasn't ready to open up yet. Meanwhile, Brooke cranked up the drama. She posted this teary-eyed selfie on Instagram with a caption like asterisk, sometimes people show their true colors during your happiest moments. Asterisk, she didn't name me, but everyone knew who she meant. Her followers flooded the comments with stay strong messages and advice about cutting toxic family out of your life. 3 days later, my phone rang, Tyler. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. Lauren, what the hell's going on? He asked, sounding more drained than angry. Brooke said you guys fought at the mall and you canceled her cards out of spite. I let out a dry laugh. That's one way to tell it. Did she also mention slapping me in front of a boutique full of strangers? Silence. She what? She hit me, Tyler. Hard. Left a mark. Then she threw me out of the wedding and said she never wanted to see me again. All because I had to leave for work. More silence. Then quietly, she didn't tell me that part. Of course she didn't, I said. Did she tell you she's racked up over $43,000 on my credit card without permission? Because that's called fraud. I could hear him breathing heavily. 43,000? Give or take, I said. I have every statement if you want proof. Jesus Christ, he muttered. I knew things were getting expensive, but she told me her parents were covering most of it. Our parents gave her $5,000 tops, I said flatly. Mom told me herself. The rest came from my card, the one she borrowed and never returned. Tyler went quiet for a long time. I don't even know what to say, he finally murmured. I'm sorry, Lauren. This is insane. Yeah, well, I said. I've already filed the fraud report, and the bank's reversing everything. If you're smart, you'll take a good look at her spending before you marry her, because this is who she really is. I hung up before he could reply. I did feel bad for him a little. He seemed like a decent guy. But he was choosing this, and that wasn't my problem anymore. The credit card company moved fast. Within a week, they reversed all the fraudulent charges, shut down the old card, and flagged Brooke's transactions as unauthorized. That meant the stores she bought from were now going after her for payment. Mom called me in a panic. Lauren Marie, you need to fix this right now, she demanded. Brooke's getting calls from stores saying she owes them money. They're threatening to take back her wedding stuff. Do you realize what you've done? I protected myself from fraud, I said evenly. Brooke stole my credit card and charged tens of thousands of dollars without permission. That's a crime, Mom. She's your sister, she snapped. You gave her that card. I lent it to her, I corrected, with the understanding she'd pay me back and only use it for specific, approved things. She broke that agreement, and now she's facing the consequences. She violated that agreement repeatedly, I told my mother flatly. And she physically assaulted me, which is also a crime, by the way. Oh please, Mom scoffed. She barely touched you. Don't be so dramatic. That hit harder than Brooke's slap. The fact that my own mother could brush off what had happened, minimize it like it was no big deal, hurt more than I could put into words. I'm done discussing this, I said, my voice steady. Brooke made her choices. Now she can live with the consequences. If you don't fix this, Mom warned, she won't be able to have the wedding she's been planning. Then maybe she should have thought about that before she hit me and threw me out of her life. I hung up and blocked her number. I was done being the family's emotional punching bag. 2 weeks after the mall fiasco, I was served legal papers at my office. Brooke was suing me for breach of verbal contract and emotional distress. She claimed I'd promised to pay for her wedding and then backed out, causing her financial ruin and emotional trauma. I actually laughed out loud when I read it. The sheer nerve of this woman, suing me after stealing my credit card and slapping me in public. I immediately hired an attorney, a brilliant woman named Patricia Chun who specialized in family law and fraud. When I showed her my documentation, her eyebrows shot up. This is one of the clearest cases of credit card fraud I've seen, she said. Your sister doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. Honestly, you could press criminal charges. Can I countersue? I asked. Absolutely, Patricia said. For the full amount she stole, plus damages, legal fees, and pain and suffering for the assault. Then let's do it, I told her. Patricia filed a countersuit that made Brooke's complaint look like a bad joke. We sued for the full $43,000, plus an additional $20,000 in damages for emotional distress, assault, and defamation related to her social media posts and the smear campaign she'd launched against me. We also filed a police report for the assault. I had the photos of my face, witness statements from customers in the boutique that Patricia's investigator tracked down, and even mall security footage clearly showing Brooke hitting me. When Brooke got served with the countersuit, she absolutely lost it. I know because she left me a string of unhinged voicemails before I blocked her number too. You're destroying my life. Over money. You care more about money than your own sister. I hope you're happy, Lauren. I hope you're proud of yourself for ruining my wedding. Everyone knows what you really are now. You're dead to this family, dead to me. Good, I thought. I don't want your forgiveness. The lawsuit moved forward. Brooke tried to get our parents to pay her legal fees, but even they had reached their limit. They'd already drained what savings they had helping with her wedding, and weren't about to go into debt funding a lawsuit she brought on herself. Her attorney tried to argue that there was a family understanding that I would help pay for the wedding, so her use of my card wasn't fraudulent. Patricia obliterated that defense with the text messages showing Brooke had explicitly promised to repay me, and to only use the card for purchases I'd approved. They also tried to deny the assault, but the video footage didn't lie. You could clearly see Brooke slapping me, and me walking out holding my face. Then things took a darker turn. During discovery, Patricia subpoenaed Brooke's financial records, and what she found made my stomach drop. Not only had Brooke been using my credit card, she'd also opened 2 additional credit accounts in my name without my knowledge. How is that even possible? I asked, staring at the paperwork in disbelief. She had access to your personal information, Patricia explained. Your social security number, address, date of birth. It's not that hard to apply for credit online if you've got those. My heart sank. The violation went so much deeper than I'd realized. She hadn't just stolen my money, she'd stolen my identity. Those 2 extra cards carried balances totaling another $18,000. We immediately reported the fraud to the credit bureaus and added identity theft to our lawsuit. Patricia also had me freeze my credit to prevent any more damage. Your sister's facing serious criminal exposure now, Patricia said gravely. Identity theft is a federal offense. For a moment, guilt pricked at me. This was my sister, and I was helping build a criminal case that could land her behind bars. But then I remembered the sting of her slap, the smug looks on her friends' faces, and months of manipulation and deceit. That guilt didn't last long. The identity theft revelation blew everything wide open. Brooke's lawyer started begging for extensions, trying to figure out how to defend against something this damning. Meanwhile, the police got involved, and my case was assigned to a detective named Officer Martinez. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a calm, no-nonsense demeanor. After reviewing everything, she just shook her head. I've seen a lot of ugly family disputes, she told me. But this kind of financial abuse? It's extreme. Your sister knew exactly what she was doing. Will she go to jail? I asked quietly, unsure how I even felt about that possibility. That depends, she said. It's up to the district attorney. Given the amount involved and the clear intent, I'd say it's likely. But sometimes first-time offenders in family cases get plea deals. The investigation stretched on for weeks, and the more we uncovered, the uglier it got. Brooke hadn't just spiraled during wedding planning. She'd been living way beyond her means for years. She'd maxed out multiple credit cards, taken out loans she couldn't pay, even borrowed money from friends she never repaid. Tyler started calling me regularly once all this surfaced. He was devastated, realizing the woman he was about to marry wasn't who he thought she was. I thought I knew her, Tyler said one afternoon over the phone, his voice quiet and heavy. We've been together 4 years. How did I miss all the signs? She's good at hiding it, I told him. She covers it up with that whole carefree, bubbly image. Makes people think she's just spontaneous and fun. But underneath that, she's irresponsible and entitled. I found out she told me her parents paid off her student loans years ago, he said bitterly. Turns out they're still carrying the full balance. She's been lying about so many things. Are you still going through with the wedding? I asked. There was a long pause. I don't know, he admitted. I love her, or at least I love the person I thought she was. But trust is everything in a marriage. How do I marry someone who's lied to me about fundamental parts of her life? I didn't have an answer for that. It wasn't my decision to make. Meanwhile, the family situation kept deteriorating. My Aunt Carol, who'd been one of Brooke's biggest defenders, started to waver once she heard about the identity theft. She called me one night, her tone hesitant. "Lauren, I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest." "Okay," I said, bracing myself. "Did Brooke really open credit cards in your name without your permission?" "Yes," I said simply. "I have all the paperwork if you want to see it." She let out a long sigh. "I lent her $3,000 last year. She said it was for emergency car repairs and promised to pay me back within 2 months." "Let me guess," I said. "You never saw a dime." "No," she admitted quietly. And when I asked about it, she got defensive and accused me of being petty for expecting family to repay loans. "That's how she operates," I explained. "She takes advantage of people's kindness, then makes them feel guilty for expecting accountability." Carol was silent for a few seconds. Then she said softly, "I owe you an apology. I said some awful things to you when this all started." I believed her without question. "Thank you," I said, genuinely relieved. "That means a lot." "Your mother's still in total denial," Carol warned. "She refuses to believe Brooke did any of this on purpose." That didn't surprise me in the slightest. Mom had spent my whole life defending Brooke's behavior. She wasn't about to stop now. As the case moved forward, Brooke's shiny public image began to collapse. Her Instagram followers started questioning her vague posts about family betrayal and her disappearing wedding updates. Someone finally commented, "Wait. Did you use someone else's credit card without permission? That's theft, not betrayal." Brooke deleted the comment and eventually set her profile to private, but the damage was already done. Her influencer career, small as it was, evaporated overnight. Brands wanted nothing to do with someone tangled up in a fraud scandal. My cousin Rachel kept me updated on family gatherings I was no longer invited to. Apparently things were tense. Dad had started challenging Mom's blind loyalty to Brooke, and the two of them were fighting constantly. Brooke, meanwhile, was reportedly having panic attacks about the investigation and what it meant for her future. "She keeps saying you've ruined her life," Rachel told me one day. "But honestly, Lauren, even your mom's starting to realize she did this to herself. She won't say it out loud, but you can tell she knows." The breaking point came when the police formally charged Brooke with identity theft and credit card fraud. Seeing their daughter face real criminal charges finally cracked Mom's armor. She called me from an unfamiliar number, probably so I wouldn't ignore her, and when I answered she was already crying. "Lauren, please," she said through sobs. "Please drop the charges. She's your sister. She could go to prison." "I didn't press charges, Mom," I said tiredly. "The state did, based on the evidence. It's out of my hands." "But you could talk to them," she pleaded. "Tell them you don't want to prosecute." "Why would I do that? So she can face no consequences and move on to her next victim?" "She's learned her lesson," Mom insisted. "She's terrified. She cries every day." "She should be terrified," I said firmly. "She committed felonies. She stole my identity, Mom. She could have ruined my credit, my job, my entire life." "But she's family." Mom cried. "She stopped being family," I interrupted, "the moment she saw me as a bank account instead of a sister. The moment she hit me and told me she never wanted to see me again. You don't get to call someone family only when it's convenient." There was a long, trembling silence on the line. Then Mom whispered, "I know we haven't always treated you fairly. I know we favored Brooke. But please don't let her go to prison." It was the first real acknowledgement of the favoritism that had defined my entire childhood, but it came far too late. "Brooke made her choices," I said quietly. "Now she gets to live with them. Just like I've had to live with years of being treated like I mattered less." I hung up and blocked that number too. The case never made it to trial. About 3 months in, Brooke's lawyer convinced her to settle. She couldn't afford to keep fighting, and she was doomed to lose. The district attorney offered her a plea deal. She'd plead guilty to 1 count of credit card fraud and 1 count of identity theft. In exchange for her guilty plea and full restitution to me, she'd get probation instead of prison time, along with mandatory financial counseling and community service. She took the deal. She didn't have much of a choice. The settlement required her to pay me $15,000 immediately, money she scraped together by selling her engagement ring and a few designer items, and to pay the remaining $28,000 in monthly installments over 5 years. She also had to pay back the $18,000 from the card she'd opened in my name, bringing her total debt to $46,000. On top of that, she was required to post a public apology on her social media, admitting that she'd used my credit card without permission and physically assaulted me. She also had to drop her ridiculous lawsuit against me, which honestly was just the cherry on top. The wedding that had been planned for 2 months after the mall disaster fell apart almost completely. Brooke couldn't afford most of the vendors she'd booked, and plenty of them refused to work with her once the fraud came to light. In the end, she had a stripped-down ceremony at our parents' house with maybe 30 guests. I wasn't invited, obviously, but Rachel sent me pictures. It looked sad, honestly. Nothing like the lavish event Brooke had spent a year obsessing over. Tyler went through with it anyway, though Rachel said you could practically feel the tension between them. He was furious when he learned the full extent of her lies and spending, but by then, he'd already committed. As for me, I've never felt more free in my entire life. Cutting Brooke, and my enabling parents, out of my life was the best thing I ever did. I've built a chosen family made up of real friends who respect me, who don't guilt-trip me or take advantage of me. Without all that drama draining my time and energy, my career took off. I even got a promotion not long after. And I met someone, Chris. He's kind, grounded, funny, and every time I tell him stories about my family, he just shakes his head and says, "How did you survive that long?" The monthly payments from Brooke hit my account like clockwork. Every time I see that deposit, I can't help but smile. It's not about the money, it's about what it represents. Accountability, boundaries, proof that I'm not powerless anymore. One day she managed to text me from a new number I hadn't blocked yet. I hope you know you destroyed our family. Everyone thinks you're a monster. Was it worth it? I stared at the message for a few seconds, then typed back a single word. Yes. Then I blocked her again. Because the truth is, I didn't destroy our family, Brooke did. She wrecked it the moment she decided her desires mattered more than my trust, my financial security, and basic decency. She did it when she slapped me in public, smeared my name, and used me like a personal ATM. All I did was finally stop letting her. People sometimes ask me if I regret any of it, if I wish I'd been softer, more forgiving, tried to make peace. The answer is simple. Not even for a second. The day I canceled that card in the parking garage, something shifted inside me. I stopped being the person who made excuses for other people's bad behavior. I stopped putting everyone else's comfort ahead of my own peace. I stopped letting family be an excuse for mistreatment. Brooke thought she could humiliate me, steal from me, and walk away unscathed. She thought I'd keep playing the role I'd always played, the quiet, reliable sister who never fought back. She was wrong. Watching her face the fallout of her own choices, watching her downsize her dream wedding and admit her lies publicly, knowing she'll be sending me payments every month for the next 5 years. It's not vengeance. It's justice. Some people might say I'm being petty, or that I should have been the bigger person, that family matters more than money. But those people weren't there. They didn't feel that slap echo through a crowded boutique. They didn't spend years watching the golden child take while I kept cleaning up the mess. They don't know what it's like to be used until you're empty. I do. And I'm done with it. So yes, Brooke, it was worth it. Every single penny.